Friends from the media, good afternoon. Welcome to today's press conference. I'd like to take your questions.
Thanks. Further from Sharp News. Regarding the situation in the Middle East, did the leaders discuss were the result of the discussion on this issue positive? Thank you.
This morning, President Xi Jinping held talks with President Donald Trump. The two heads of state has exchanged their views relating to Middle East situation and international and regional issues. We already released a readout, and you may refer to. Next question, please.
Why have Americans, a question from the New York Times. Why have American slaughterhouses been approved for exports of beef to China, and are any actual purchases agreed to? Thank you.
During the two heads of state talks, President Xi Jinping pointed out that the two sides will expand cooperation and communication in fields of economic and trade and agriculture, and we already released a readout you may refer to. Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。澎湃新闻记者提问：中国将于今年的这个5月18号到19号在上海举办亚太经合组织第2次高官会。目前我们注意到会期已经临近了，外交部能否进一步介绍会议筹备的有关情况？外交部对此次会议有何预期的成果？谢谢。
APEC senior officials meeting, held 4 to 5 times every year, are the main channel for preparing outcomes for the leaders' meeting. As the host of APEC in 2026, China will hold the second APEC senior officials meeting in Shanghai from May 18th to 19th. Through the meeting, the participants will review the APEC cooperation in the first half of this year, pull the early harvest, and make preparations for the success of the following events, including the leaders' meeting for the rest of the year. Besides, before the senior officials meeting, various committees and working groups will hold a total of nearly 40 meetings from May 11th to 17th, covering trade and investment, economic and tech cooperation, women, telecommunication, food security, and other areas. It is expected that more than 1,000 representatives from member economies of APEC, the APEC Secretariat, and the APEC observers will participate. The host city of Shanghai is China's largest economic center and an important global economic hub, as Shanghai ranks among the world's top 5 cities by economic output and records the largest port trade volume and container throughput in TEUs. We welcome all of you to continue following and supporting the second APEC senior officials meeting, as well as the APEC China Year.
Hi, I'm from Reuters. 2 questions. Going back to President Xi's meeting with Trump, President Xi talked about a new positioning in ties with the U.S. And also he said both leaders agree that building a constructive and strategically stable relation will guide ties in the next 3 years and beyond. Could you elaborate on that as well? And is that how China characterizes its relations with U.S. going forward? My second question is, President Xi also said if Taiwan issue was handled poorly, then bilateral relations with U.S. could be pushed into an extremely dangerous situation. Is that a warning to the U.S. about a potential war? Thanks.
As to your first question, this morning President Xi Jinping held talks with President Trump. Both sides have reached common understandings on a new vision of building a constructive China-U.S. relationship of strategic stability, providing strategic guidance for China-U.S. relations over the next 3 years and beyond. Constructive strategic stability means positive stability with cooperation as the mainstay, healthy stability with competition within proper limits, constant stability with manageable differences, and lasting stability with expectable peace. China will work with the U.S. to translate the new vision into actions in the same direction to advance the steady sound sustainable development.
On your second question, during the talks between President Xi Jinping and President Trump, the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. If it is handled properly, the bilateral relationship will enjoy overall stability. Otherwise, the two countries will have clashes and even conflicts, putting the entire relationship in great jeopardy. Taiwan independence and cross-strait peace are as irreconcilable as fire and water. Safeguarding peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait is the biggest common denominator between China and the U.S. The U.S. side must exercise extra caution in handling the Taiwan question. Next question, please.
Question from the New York Times. Did the two leaders specifically discuss American arms sales to Taiwan? Thank you.
China's position for opposition of U.S. arms sales to Taiwan region China is consistent and clear. Next one, please.
Previously, Russia has successfully launched the Sarmat missile. President Putin has said that the characteristics of Sarmat may break the current and future anti-missile defense system. What's your comment?
We've noticed a relevant report. Next one, please.
A question from AFP. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has traveled to China with President Donald Trump, and this morning Secretary Rubio also met Chinese President Xi Jinping. But Secretary Rubio was sanctioned by China in 2020 over his remarks then as senator criticizing China's human rights record. Have those sanctions against Marco Rubio been removed? And how does China view Secretary Rubio's visit to Beijing along with President Donald Trump? Thank you.
China's relevant sanctions is for Mr. Rubio as he was U.S. Senator. Next question, please.
Thank you. A global newspaper from Brazil. I have a question about the foreign minister meeting of the BRICS in Delhi. First, which is struggling to reach a final statement. I wanted to know what for China is the preferable outcome from this meeting, in particular regarding the wording of the about the conflict or the tensions in the Middle East. And secondly, why has China not sent a high-level representative from Beijing to this meeting? Thank you.
I'd like to answer your first question. Due to the reason for the agenda, the Chinese ambassador in India attended the meeting representing the Foreign Minister Wang Yi. And BRICS countries, it is the important platform for emerging market and developing countries. China attached great importance into the cooperation, and also we would like to consolidate the positive momentum for cooperation and consolidation of the BRICS. And we support India to hold the meeting and promote the high-quality development of the great BRICS cooperation. Next one, please.
A question from the New York Times. What role is
纽约
Eric
时报
Trump playing in
请问
these talks?
埃里克特朗普，也就是特朗普二世，在此次会谈中发挥什么作用？谢谢。
China has released a readout on the talks. And I'd refer you to the U.S. side for anything about the delegation traveling with the U.S. president. Next question, please.
A question from the New York Times. You mentioned discussions on the Mideast. Has there been any specific progress on the conflict in Iran or on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz? Thank you.
I've answered the relevant questions on the Strait of Hormuz. China's position is consistent and clear. Next question.
Hindu newspaper. Just another question on the foreign ministers meeting today. Obviously, Iran's foreign minister is present as well. So does China have any expectations in terms of the role that BRICS might be able to play in dealing with the current crisis? Thank you.
危机方面发挥什么作用？
I've introduced the relevant information and Chinese position. China always would like to consolidate and cooperate with the BRICS countries, and we support the chair, India, to hold the meeting and promote high-quality development for the greater BRICS cooperation. Next question, please.
Hi, President Trump calls President Xi a friend. Is Trump Xi's friend too?
This morning, President Xi Jinping met with President Donald Trump for his state visit to China in Beijing. And the two sides have already exchanged their views on China-U.S. relations and the world peace and development. And also, President Xi Jinping also visited the Temple of Heaven with President Trump, and I'd refer you to stay tuned for the visit.